Hey guys, welcome back. Kevin here. I'm gonna be doing the third part of my story. This part of the story, part of my life is gonna be probably the most difficult for me to talk about, and it's probably going to be the longest of the three videos. Um, it's a lot of information. I'm going to be going over a lot of bad memories, but I think talking about it is can be a positive thing for me. So I do want to mention that in my last video, I was talking about anxiety, and I was talking about how I never had like a generalized anxiety disorder. And then there were other parts of the video where I was talking about how I did have anxiety. I just want to mention that when I did have anxiety episodes, it was only when my thyroid levels would be out of range, or when I was going through the that severe arthritis flare up episode, whatever it was, in December of 2006. So while I did mention that I did have periods of anxiety, it was only during these intense situations that I was in. But I never had like generalized anxiety disorder where I was dealing with anxiety like all the time. And that is something that I'm going to talk more about later on. But I'm going to start with I think I left off in July of 2011, or August 2011, somewhere around there. I was heading back to Five Towns College at the time, and I decided I wanted to try to get off of Celexa because I felt that I didn't need it. I didn't want to be on these drugs my entire life. So I went to my psychiatrist, who I was seeing at the time, and we decided that we were going to try to wean myself off of it. Sorry. So that process began in August of 2011. And I started very slow. So I was on 20 milligrams of Celexa for all those years, since 2006. And I believe I went down to 15 milligrams. And I have a lot of memories from fall 2011, but I'm going to try to get through this as fast as possible. But I started getting debilitating symptoms, not in the first few weeks, but probably within a month, maybe like 1 to 2 months after I started weaning down on the Celexa. So it was around maybe early October where my symptoms were getting so uncomfortable that it was affecting school. And the worst symptom I had was shortness of breath, and it was so severe I ended up in the ER a couple times, and they would check me out, and they would say, you're getting enough oxygen. And I think they did blood work at the time, and my TSH level, which is your thyroid stimulating hormone, mine had gone way out of range. It went high, which indicates hypothyroidism. So at the time I didn't know this, but this is still something I deal with. When I adjust my antidepressants, my TSH and my thyroid levels go out of range. It's happened 4 or 5 times now in my life. I don't understand it. No doctor has really been able to understand it as well. But that being said, I went up. I'm sorry. I guess I went down on my medication at the time. So I continued to try to go off of the Celexa over the next couple months. I believe I got down to 10 milligrams, but my symptoms never went away. Even the extreme shortness of breath, and I was getting horrible anxiety. I was also getting symptoms. I almost felt like I was going crazy. I don't know. It's hard to put into words the discomfort I was feeling. My heart was racing. I would feel cold, and then I would feel hot. I started to drive my car less because my anxiety was so bad and the shortness of breath was so severe. And I ended up leaving school in early December, maybe it was mid-December, just before finals. And I remember going home. The symptoms were just getting worse, and I didn't really know what was going on. I had gone to different doctors. All my blood work was fine. They told me it was most likely just anxiety. I had never had anxiety disorder. Like I said, I had periods of anxiety when I would go through something like the arthritis episode, and when my TSH was out of range. And it was actually back in range around this time, like middle of December of 2011. So it was there were different there's different memories that I have. There was one day, it was around probably the 17th or the 18th of December, where I had driven my car to Walmart to buy, I think, a Christmas present for somebody, and I went into the store, and my shortness of breath was so bad I actually fell over, and my heart rate must have been, I didn't take it at the time, but it was probably around 140, 150 beats per minute. And I went outside. I collected myself. No one saw it happen, but I collected myself. I went outside. I sat on the curb for a few minutes, deciding what I should do, if I should drive down to the hospital. The symptoms were just debilitating. And I remember getting back in my car, and I just drove home. And I just remember at the time thinking, all right, well, the doctor told me this is just anxiety. So, that's all this is. There's nothing to worry about. And then it was a few days later. It was December 23rd, 2011. This is a day that I will never forget. I remember I had to go get blood taken on this day, and my mom drove me, and it was about 10 minutes from home. I got my blood work done. I was feeling horrible, absolutely horrible. The symptoms were just, like I said, debilitating, but in the back of my mind I was like, this is anxiety. That's what the doctor said. So I got home, and I remember getting right onto my couch, and I was laying there, and I had the most intense feelings of adrenaline going throughout my body and my brain, and it was so much fear. It's something I can't really put into words. I couldn't breathe. I was gasping for air. My whole body was going numb. I would try to get up, I would fall right back down. And that was the moment that I was like, this is not anxiety. Like, something is going on in my body. My parents were sitting on the couches, and they were very worried, and they were about to take me down to the hospital. But they decided to call my endocrinologist, call him first. So they put in an emergency call to him, and he was also kind of like a naturopathic doctor, and he understood like the whole mind-body connection. He wasn't a mainstream endocrinologist, if that makes any sense. He understood things that other doctors probably wouldn't even consider or think about. But they asked his opinion. They told him my symptoms, and they said, should we take him down to the hospital? First thing he said was, the hospital's not going to be able to help him. I think I know what the problem is. And he told my parents that he thought I was suffering from adrenal fatigue. So basically for the next few weeks, I was unable to get out of my bed because I was so fatigued. I was so short of breath. I was so dizzy. Like I said, I had just episodes of the most intense adrenaline that you could possibly imagine. And that actually ended up stopping. And he thought it was because my adrenal glands got so overworked that it's not that they stopped working, they just weren't working correctly. Now, over the next couple weeks, when I was bedridden, I had to basically use a portable bathroom because I couldn't even get up out of the bed. And the memories I have from this time in my life it's PTSD for sure. It's hard to talk about. So I remember also at the time that my psychiatrist recommended to my parents that I stopped this taper process of the Celexa, and I just go back to what I was taking, which was 20 milligrams a few months before that. And I was very scared to go back up on it. But I was also afraid to go down on it. It was sort of like just a very scary time of my life, because I didn't know when or if I was going to feel better anytime soon. So I actually went to a surgeon, and they determined, along with my endocrinologist, that I needed to remove my thyroid because it was contributing so much to the issues with my adrenal glands now. And that probably one of the only ways I was going to fully heal was to remove the thyroid, because it was so diseased, and it was causing me so much discomfort, the Graves' disease at this point. And this was all this all started just simply weaning down off of an antidepressant. And all of it, and of course I did end up getting a total thyroidectomy on March 21st, 2012. I had made progress, between December and March. I had made a little progress, but I still, I could barely leave the house. And a lot of my memory, I try to block out a lot of the memories from that time because of how much I was suffering and how horrible I felt. But I remember getting my thyroid removed, and I actually did start to heal. Within a couple of weeks, I noticed that my body was starting to feel a lot better. I was starting to get a little bit more energy. And then I did feel better for the next few months, and I was starting to actually get my life back. This was April, May, June, and July of 2012. And, at the time, we thought it was just my, just this diseased thyroid that I had, which was causing me all of my issues. And it was a big part of it, because my surgeon at the time, told me and my parents it was one of the biggest thyroids that she has ever removed out of the thousands of thyroidectomies that she's performed. So that was very that was interesting to hear her say. But it was July or August of 2012 now, and I was getting my life back a little bit. So once again, I said to myself, I don't want to take this antidepressant for the rest of my life. I had not made this connection yet that the antidepressant is what caused my thyroid levels to go out of range and my adrenal glands to then have a problem. But I decided again I was going to try to wean off of the Celexa. So this was also, this was July and August of 2012. So slowly I started to go down on it again, and within 3 to 4 weeks I was brutally exhausted and having shortness of breath again. And of course I go and I get my blood taken, and my TSH level, which was fine over the summer, shot back up to very, very high level, which indicated hypothyroidism again. So this was very frustrating at the time, and I thought the Celexa was actually making me worse maybe at the time. So we actually switched me to Prozac in September, and the Prozac made me feel way too stimulated. So I actually switched to Paxil, and the Paxil made me feel like similar. It was very similar. I was overstimulated, and I spent the next 2 to 3 months trying to bring down my thyroid levels, while also at the same time trying to figure out what to do about the antidepressants, which seemed to be causing my thyroid levels to be going so out of range. And they were also making me feel like I was constantly, almost like someone was giving me tons of caffeine. So I thought to myself, why are these drugs that are supposed to, stop panic and anxiety and depression, why are they making me feel this horrible? And not only that, why every time I try to go off of them, my thyroid levels go out of range? So it was all just a very frustrating time in my life. It was around December of 2012 when my psychiatrist, which I think I was seeing a new psychiatrist at the time, decided we're going to try Zoloft. And keep in mind, the months leading up to that were also very horrible. I could not leave the house. I was exhausted. I was having panic attacks. When I was awake, it was just, I felt like I said, I felt like someone giving me tons of caffeine. I was agitated. I had brain fog. I remember my parents going away to Florida with the rest of my family, and I stayed with my Aunt Sue, and because they didn't want me to be alone, because that's how horrible I was feeling. But I was so bad there. I basically was just in bed. I was begging my aunt and uncle to take me to a hospital, because I was sure I was going to die, because that's how horrible I felt. I ended up getting a low dose of Xanax at the time, just to calm down my whole system, and it helped a little bit. It took away the intense suffering, I should say. And for the next month, I did use Xanax on like an as needed basis, just for when the agitation and all of that was so severe. The Xanax would sort of take that edge off. But back to what I was saying, I was switched to Zoloft, and I also was put on Abilify. So it took a little while, but my thyroid levels actually got back in range in December, and Zoloft ended up actually working, and I did feel better for a short period of time. I remember December, I was starting to actually leave the house a little more. I still couldn't drive a car because of my debilitating symptoms, but I was getting out of the house with my family, and I was starting to get something back, gain some of my life back. And I think it was late December maybe that I noticed I was still just feeling very depressed, which I never had in the past, but it was definitely depression, and my psychiatrist said I needed more Zoloft, so I was put on more Zoloft, and it actually made me feel horrible for about a month, similar to what I was saying before. It was like agitation, like I was on caffeine, just really horrible feelings in my head and my brain. That ended up leveling out, and I think it was February now, where the medication I was taking for my thyroid, which was Levoxyl, it actually got recalled. So I had to then switch that to Synthroid. Synthroid is a similar medication, levothyroxine, and I think that is what actually most people take. But I was put on Synthroid, and I did not do well on Synthroid. My thyroid levels went way out of range again, just switching to Synthroid, because I could no longer get the Levoxyl. So I spent the next couple months with horrible hypothyroid symptoms again, and this was all giving me tons of trauma, and I think this was all giving me anxiety in itself, because I started to not trust my body, and I started to not trust the psychiatrists and the doctors, and I started to second guess everything. So I think it was around late April or May of 2013 that my mom found a doctor online who is a naturopath, and she found her online because we were sort of becoming desperate, because my thyroid levels were actually a little bit better at this point, but I still was just feeling very horrible. So she found this doctor, and her name was Dr. Jennifer Phelps, in Ridgefield, Connecticut. And I remember going to her for the first time. I could barely make it into the office. I was so exhausted, and I was having such horrible anxiety from, I don't really know what it was at the time. I think my body was just so worn out from everything. But she, I had about an hour or two conversation with her, and she said, well, I remember her saying this. She said, well, what do you want to do with your life? What do you like to do? And I hadn't even thought about like my interests in so long, because I was just dealing with all of this health stuff that I hadn't even thought about, the things I enjoy or what I want to do with my life. So she asked me that question, and I was like, why is she asking me this? Like, I can barely walk into the office. But she asked me, and I said, well, I love hockey. I'm a huge Rangers fan, and I started watching the Rangers in late 2011 when I became so sick, just to have something to do. So I never stopped. So I became a huge Rangers fan. And I told her, I was like, well, I would love to play hockey one day, but I was like, I know that's never going to happen. But she said, no, she was like, no, we're going to get you there. You're going to be on the ice one day. And I was like, I kind of looked at her like she was crazy. But that being said, she was all about the mind-body connection, and, treating your body the right way, eating the right foods, supplements, meditation, yoga, the whole, the bigger picture here, not just, taking a pill to solve all your problems. So she was like, you have to get exercise. Exercise is medicine in itself. You have to force yourself to get exercise, no matter how horrible you are feeling. And I was like, I was like, this lady's crazy. Like, I was like, I can't even walk into your office, and you're telling me I have to go like take walks down my street every day. I was almost like confused a little bit, but I did listen to her. I listened to every word she said, and I slowly started to walk on my street, and I did a little more each day for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then months. And I would say around late July, early August of 2013, she took me off of the Abilify, which was the medication that was supposed to be helping the Zoloft work better. She took me off of that, which I thought I wasn't going to be able to do, but I did get off of that. And I got to the point where I started swimming. I started running on the treadmill. And in August, my cousin Mark played in a hockey league, and a bunch of my friends, my cousin Dave, were all interested in starting to play hockey, for the first time. And I actually got into the rink one day in August with a bunch of my friends. We skated around, and then I think it was late September, early October of 2013, I joined a hockey league, and my parents had to help me. I had such horrible anxiety from everything that had happened so far in my life, especially the past couple of years, that I still had trouble driving. I would get really bad anxiety while driving, and I would get like panic attacks. So they started to drive me up to my hockey games, and the first few games I remember getting off the ice like halfway through the game, and I was like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I feel like I can't breathe. Like, And I remember talking to my mom. She's like, you got to push through this. She's like, you got to listen to Dr. Phelps. You know, you have to push through all of these horrible symptoms. She was like, it's good for you. It's good to exercise. It's not going to hurt your body. But I had lost so much confidence in myself and in my body because of everything that had happened with my thyroid and my adrenal glands, and then even after the thyroidectomy, trying to get off the Celexa again, and then my thyroid levels, even though I didn't have a thyroid, my levels were still going out of range. So it was very that was also frustrating and traumatizing. So that fear is something I still was holding on to. I developed almost like an exercise anxiety, even though I had gotten in decent shape and I was in a hockey rink and I was playing, and I was on the team. I still had horrible anxiety, and I would still go up to my mom and look for some sort of reassurance that I was okay. Like I said, because I had no confidence in my body. But I forced myself to play hockey, and a lot of my problems went away. And it wasn't easy because I still got horrible anxiety, and I would get panic attacks, but I had the Xanax, when I needed it. So it took a long time, but I would say from 2013, late 2013, to up until 2016, I had gotten my life back, and I was playing hockey probably 4 or 5 days a week. I was going out with friends. I was working. I was back in school. I was taking college classes again. So this was the most positive time of my life. Up until I would say that point, those were definitely like the positive years that I had. And this video is already really long. I'm not even into the worst of it. So 2016, I was doing very well. I was, like I said, I was playing hockey. I was in great shape. I was, hanging out with friends. I was back in school. I was doing group therapy for all the stuff that had happened. I was still on the 100 milligrams of Zoloft, but that summer, I was like, okay, I can do this. I can get off of antidepressants. So there's no reason why I need to take this drug for the rest of my life, because I was not like this before I had started them. I wasn't like this when I was 11 or 12, when I think I started when I was 13. And then when I went off when I was 16, I wasn't like this. I didn't have horrible, debilitating anxiety. I had panic attacks from time to time that I could handle I should have handled it with just more therapy and lifestyle changes, but whatever. Anyway, I said to myself, I want to get off of this drug. I don't want to be on these drugs my entire life. I just don't. I don't trust them. I don't trust these drugs. Okay? So I decided to try to wean myself off of Zoloft very, very slowly. My thyroid levels went out of range again. Very, very out of range. So this is now the third time that this has happened to me. And August, September, October, lost months of my life again. And it was all the same stuff. It was shortness of breath, debilitating anxiety, and this was withdrawal symptoms. This was not a return of any sort of anxiety disorder. This was not anything like that. It was nothing I'd ever felt before. I was having horrible, horrible withdrawal from a drug that I had been on for many years. So I said, I can't do this. I'm just going to go back on it. So I went back on. Took time, but I got my thyroid levels back in range again. And I think it was around December of 2016, I started to feel a little bit better, and I was able to, start exercising again. And so then December, January, February, March, April, now we're in 2017, and then I think it was sometime around May or June, I was still playing hockey, and I remember I would be on the ice, and I just started feeling that feeling of shortness of breath, that debilitating anxiety feeling, like I couldn't breathe. And it would get so bad sometimes I would actually have to get off the ice and just go home. And this went on for maybe a month or two. And, I didn't think about it at the time, but I believe now that the Zoloft was just not working anymore, which can happen with antidepressants. It's called the poop out effect. So 2017, it was on and off anxiety. And then early 2018, the anxiety got so severe that I basically was just in my house for a couple months and I couldn't do anything. I was having debilitating panic attacks. I was having episodes where my blood pressure would go very, very high. I was in and out of the emergency room for a few months because I was just terrified of these symptoms. So there was a doctor based out of Massachusetts who had helped my dad with his ulcerative colitis, and his name is Dr. Albert Snow. So he helped me. He knew what the problem was, or at least he thought he did, which did help. He put me on probiotics. He put me on something called Inflamma Select and colostrum, and with that, and I was also using CBD for anxiety. He did end up helping me enough where I actually did start to feel better for a few months. But then I think around September or October of 2018, the anxiety came back, even though I was still, doing what he was saying to do. I was taking the probiotic. I was taking the supplements that he gave me, and I was still using CBD for anxiety. But it was just up and down anxiety for a very long time between 2017, 2018. And I didn't even think about it at the time, but now I'm realizing that the Zoloft just wasn't working anymore. Or it's not that it wasn't even working. I think it was actually making me worse. Because these drugs are no joke, man. I'm telling you, the pharmaceutical companies want lifetime customers. Okay, that's what they want. I'm not going to get into that right now, but basically, it was February of 2019, and I was still having episodes of a really bad anxiety. It was affecting my life. I wasn't working. I was still trying to, exercise and trying to do things with friends. I was getting just really bad anxiety when I would go out and even just like take a drive. So my doctor at the time, my psychiatrist who I was seeing at the time, said, let's try a different antidepressant. So I was scared. I was scared to do that because, even though the Zoloft wasn't really doing much, I was afraid of getting even worse. So I switched to Lexapro. Lexapro is another SSRI antidepressant, similar to Celexa actually, which is why I thought it would be the right drug for me. So from March of 2019 until about early October of 2019, I was in the ER 54 times. I was also diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease in March of 2019. So I went to a doctor who specializes in Lyme, and I was put on antibiotics. The antibiotics made me very, very sick. And not only that, the Lexapro, I believe I don't know if I was allergic to it or what, but it gave me episodes of severely high blood pressure, and it gave me the worst panic attacks I've ever had in my entire life, where I was almost begging people to knock me out or kill me because I was in so much discomfort. And 54 times is the amount of times I ended up in the emergency room with severely high blood pressure and panic attacks. Now, the people in the hospital, they almost got to know me because I was there so much, and they thought I was just this crazy dude who had mental health issues. And no, it was the Lexapro, and it was a severe Herx reaction from Lyme from taking antibiotics for Lyme treatment. So I was dealing with these things at the same time, and then I actually got Coxsackie virus. I think that's how you say it. And my microbiome got very screwed up. I developed sensory overload, sensitivity to light, sound, touch, very, very severely. I was belching probably 1,000 times a day. I couldn't breathe. I was having balance issues, just severe dizziness. I was getting severe weakness in my legs, sometimes to the point where I could not walk. And my mom would have to, when I would have to go to the emergency room, my mom would have to push me in a wheelchair to get into the hospital because I had no strength in my legs. And I believe that this was all a combination of Lexapro, which was the worst drug I've ever taken in my life, doing antibiotic treatment for chronic Lyme disease, and that was, probably the worst time of my life. And then in early October of 2019, I started seeing another Lyme doctor who did a more natural approach to treating Lyme. And at the same time, I started seeing a new psychiatrist who switched me to Effexor, which is an SNRI. And I actually improved. Took about, I would say, a month to start to feel better, but I did improve. I also forgot to mention that I was so sick over the previous summer of 2019 that I was seeing another Lyme doctor. I'd seen like 3 or 4 doctors for Lyme, but the one I was seeing thought it would be good if I took Ativan like 3 or 4 times a day. Horrible idea, but yeah, it was a terrible idea. So Ativan didn't work for me. Didn't do anything for my severely high blood pressure or panic attacks. It didn't help. So I switched back to Xanax because Xanax had always been okay for me. It helped at least a little bit. I know it's still an awful drug to take, but at the time I was so desperate that I was like, I just need to take it to have some sort of relief. So I was taking Xanax, not like a huge amount, because I didn't want to get like, crazy addicted to it. So I think I was taking 0.25 milligrams like three times a day, and I did that from the time I switched from the Ativan. So that was probably September of 2019 to I took Xanax for 2 or 3 years at that same dose. It was like two or three of those small pills a day, the 0.25. I don't even know if it was really doing much after a while, but I was almost like afraid to go off and get withdrawal from that. So like I said, I started to get better with this natural approach to Lyme. I switched to Effexor. And then COVID hit, in March 2020. But I was actually doing a lot better then. And, everyone had anxiety about COVID. I mean, I sure did. My dad ended up getting COVID in March of that year, and he got very, very sick. He didn't end up going to the hospital, but he almost did. So, that was a scary situation. But I was actually doing a lot better at the time, and it's weird. Like during quarantine, I didn't really have any panic attacks or anxiety. I was sort of just like, I was just playing like video games, watching movies, and hanging out. Like I didn't feel that bad. It was scary. I mean, everyone was afraid at that time because we didn't understand COVID yet. But anyway, started doing a lot better. And in early June of 2020, I met my current wife, who is awesome. She's the best. But I met her, and we started dating, soon after, and I didn't want to tell her everything that I had been through with all this stuff, but it eventually did come out, and I started getting a little bit more anxiety around September maybe of 2020. So my doctor was like, all right, well, let's bump you up from 75 milligrams of Effexor to 150 milligrams of Effexor, which I did, and I ended up feeling a little bit better again. So I'm going to try to speed this up. It's a long video. But from October of 2020 to this past summer of 2023, I was okay. I finished college finally. And this past summer I started to... Oh, and I forgot to mention, I did end up getting off the Xanax in early 2022. So I did that very slowly, but I was able to do it. So this past summer, I graduated college, and I got a job. And I would say about a month into my job, I started noticing anxiety, panic attacks, fatigue, all the symptoms that I had dealt with over the years, usually when a medication would stop working, or from a medication, or thyroid levels being out of range, or Lyme disease, or whatever. But it was concerning, so I got my routine TSH test, and my thyroid levels were out of range. It was very frustrating to have this keep happening, especially when I didn't do anything with my Effexor. I didn't go up or down, but my levels still went out of range for whatever reason. At the time, I was on Armour Thyroid. Now, for those who aren't familiar with thyroid medication for hypothyroidism, it's a natural way to take the replacement hormones, the T4, but it also has a lot of T3 in it. But nonetheless, I upped my Armour Thyroid in August of this year. And at the same time, I actually went back to this Lyme doctor that I had been seeing. I saw in late 2019. It was the same practice, but a different doctor. She put me on all of these herbs and supplements, and something she gave me did not agree with me because I got severe vertigo. And at the same time, I was also upping my Armour Thyroid because my thyroid levels were once again out of range. And I developed really, really severe vertigo and balance issues for 2 months, so August and September, and I became so sick that I was again bedridden, and my wife had to basically walk me to use the bathroom when I needed to, and not a fun experience at all. Something she gave me, and maybe the combination of too much T3 with my thyroid medication, something happened, and I got severe balance issues. Maybe it was also some sort of Herx reaction from the Lyme treatment. I don't know. I don't really know what it was, but I got severe balance issues and vertigo, and that didn't go away until sometime in October because I switched. Well, first of all, I went off of all the stuff that she gave me, and I didn't take any of that anymore because I didn't know if it could possibly be that. But I also switched from Armour Thyroid back to Levoxyl, which I had taken over 10 years ago when I first got my thyroid removed. So I was going through my primary for this because I haven't had an endocrinologist in a few years because my endo retired. So I was getting my medication through my primary doctor, and I started Levoxyl, and she put me on 150 micrograms, which is good for my weight. But I said to her, I was like, 10 years ago I was on 175 and I felt fine. My levels were always in range. She was like, no, I want to put you on 150. So I was put on 150. 4 or 5 weeks later, in October, it was like late October, I got my thyroid levels checked and I was hypothyroid. So it was like over the summer I was hypo. I took the Armour Thyroid, went back to normal range, but had the vertigo and had horrible symptoms. I also had heart palpitations. Thought the too much T3 could be contributing to my horrible symptoms, so I decided to switch back to the T4 only medication in levothyroxine, which is the Levoxyl. So yeah, my levels came back. I was hypothyroid, and in the back of my mind I was angry because I was like, you should have just given me the 175 like I said. But And then she says, I called her and I was frustrated, but I was like, all right, well, we should obviously up the medication. And she said, yeah, we're going to up it, but we're going to go to 200 micrograms. And I'm like, why not just give me the 175? Why won't you just listen to me? I should have just gone to a new doctor. I don't know why I didn't, but I took the 200 micrograms and I ended up going hyperthyroid over the course of 4 weeks. Now, the symptoms, that change of going from 150 to 200 micrograms and having your TSH change that quickly, I started getting debilitating panic attacks again. And I'm pretty sure it was related to that massive change in medication. So when my levels came back hyper in late November, I believe, I had been actually to the hospital, ER, a couple times because of severe panic attacks. She finally put me down to 175 micrograms like I asked her for. And she put in a referral for an endocrinologist for me. She was like, yeah, I'll lower the dose to 175, but I think maybe someone else should handle this. I was like, oh yeah, it's probably a good idea. I'm kind of an idiot for just not doing that in the first place, but hindsight's 2020. Anyway, so we're almost there. We're almost caught up. So early to the middle of this December, about a month ago, I was still not feeling that great. My TSH actually did go back in range. I got it checked 2 weeks after. It was like 2 or 3 weeks after it came back a little hyperthyroid. So they were back in range, my levels at the 175, but I still did not feel that great. I was still dealing with anxiety and panic attacks from time to time. And I decided that maybe, just like the Zoloft, the Effexor is no longer working, because I actually decided to try to go up on the Effexor. So I was taking 150 milligrams, and I decided to try to go to 187.5. And when I did that, I felt like I was losing my mind. I had severe brain fog, could not focus, could not concentrate, could not drive, really severe sensitivity to light and sound and touch, very fast heart rate. So I went back down to 150 about a week before Christmas, sometime like around then. And I just sort of had this like epiphany where I was like, enough is enough. It's like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I don't want to have to keep experimenting with these drugs that aren't even probably making me worse. Like, what are they going to work for 2 or 3 years and then stop working? Then I got to figure out another drug to take, all while dealing with, my thyroid levels. So I don't want to do this my whole life. I was like, I'm getting off of this stuff. I'm getting off of the Effexor. I don't care if it takes 5 or 10 years to get off of it. I want to get off of it. Because I was not like this. Was not like this. When I went off Celexa when I was 16 years old, the first time, I'd been on for 4 years, from 12 to 16 or 13 to 16, whatever. I felt so good. Before the Graves diagnosis, like those 4 or 5 months, I was like, this is how I'm supposed to feel. It's like I actually feel things. I have emotion. I don't have emotion at all on antidepressants. Anyway, the side effects are brutal too, by the way. Like hot flashes and dizzy. I mean, the list goes on, but these drugs, at least for me, have caused so many issues in my life. It's not just the drugs. I know it's also thyroid levels, which go out of range because of the drugs, but I know some of it could be chronic Lyme disease. I also have a gene mutation, MTHFR, double gene mutation. I know it could be a combination of all these things. I'm well aware. But I was not like this. I was a happy kid, and I decided to slowly start going off of the Effexor on December 26th. I am currently down to 75 milligrams from 150. So that is a very fast jump. I'm conflicted because part of me wants to just get off as quickly as possible. Another part of me wants to do it very slowly so I don't have such severe withdrawal symptoms. I do these videos during the day when I'm feeling my best, but I am having the support of my parents, my wife, right now as I do this, as I try to get off of Effexor and get off of antidepressants once and for all, just to find out who I am, to find out who I'm supposed to be. It has not been easy. I got the stomach bug a few days ago, and when I get sick, especially during withdrawal, or it brings out almost like I just feel worse. Two nights ago, I had a very, very severe panic attack while I had a fever, and the withdrawal symptoms were very bad. So it was really bad. It was probably the most intense fear I had felt in a long time, and adrenaline I felt it in my head and my stomach. I lost my ability to walk for a couple hours. I had complete weakness in my legs. I'm going to go into more information, but I think that right now I'm going to stop the video because it's over an hour now. But I've been through a lot. Basically, since I was diagnosed with Graves' disease in 2006, specifically since 2011, it's been horrible, to say the least. There have been good times. I'm not going to deny that. Finding my wife now, and we have two little girls, and so blessed to have them, the three of them in my life. My parents, I'm so blessed to have in my life. They've been with me every step. If I didn't have them right now, I don't know where I would be. I honestly don't. But to have the help during this is the most key thing, I think, for me. But sorry. I'm going to stop the video now, and I'm going to upload another video explaining a little bit more. But basically now, it's time for me to make this change in my life once and for all. And I'm not giving up this time. I'm going to push through. I'm monitoring with the help of my current psychiatrist and my endocrinologist. I'm going to be monitoring my TSH levels to make sure they don't go way out of range like they usually do when I do this. So I'm getting tests every 2 weeks. And I'm taking very good care of myself. I'm supplementing. I'm taking walks. So getting good sleep. I'm going to go into more detail, but thank you guys so much for watching and for listening to this. This has been, it's hard to talk about, but it's also a good thing to talk about for me, because to get it off my chest is important, and hopefully there's someone out there who can watch this and relate in some way to Graves and Lyme and medications and just everything, just all the stuff that I've gone through. I just hope I can reach someone, and feel free to leave comments with similar experiences, or ask questions. I'm more than happy to talk to someone or to answer questions. But like I said, I'm gonna end this video, and I'm gonna continue to upload my health journey. I'm gonna try to do it daily, at least five times a week or so. But I'm gonna continue to push, and I'm gonna continue to try to better myself